We'll show off our special surprise guest in a minute. Boards, board games, it's what we're talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. We are starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing, and today we're going to blether about the way it was with your first Kickstarter, and we're going to talk about the emotions as you plunged yourself into this situation. And today, below me is the person known as Phoebe. And there he is, someone else that you all know. It is the person known as Alan Paull. And in a moment, we will have a guest who I'm not going to say that they are the best because that would denigrate everyone else. And everyone is, pretty good and, totally good.
We're fine. We're fine.
Yeah.
Board games is what we're talking about. Board games, and Kickstarter and emotions. I'm not going to shout. Hey!
Hooray!
Hooray! I felt like a faster tempo than last time. It was a very energetic intro song. I liked it.
Excellent.
I think I need a faster start to the day.
Well, this is not the start to your day, Alan, is it? You've kind of been up for a few hours.
Well, okay, let's pretend that's true, yeah. Why not?
And hello, Kate, it is lovely to see you. Yes, you are first and foremost in my thoughts. Lots of love. And hello, Andrew January. Thank you very much. Oh, thanks to Andrew January, you can now find me on youtube.com/c/stuffbybez. And today I am Bez. It is bedtime in some countries. I mean, it's not quite bedtime, but maybe it'll be after bedtime after this for you, Phoebe.
Maybe. Or I'll stay up to 2 a.m. playing Hades, one of the two.
And today we've got our first Kickstarters and emotions with Alan Paull, Phoebe Wild, and a surprise guest. And any guesses for our surprise guest? You two aren't allowed to guess.
But it'll be a really good guess, Bez.
Well, it's not a guess if you know.
That's true.
So, yes, no one wants to guess. So coming up is Tally. Hey.
Hey.
And
hello,
thank
Tally.
you so much for joining us on this special day. And you are just launching your first Kickstarter, so I thought, it would be exciting to have you sharing almost live blogging, making a live diary of how are your emotions right now. So I'm going to ask you first, Tally, if that's okay. Genuinely, how are you feeling in regards to your Kickstarter right now?
A lot of feelings. Like, I'm very excited. I'm anxious. I'm desperate, super happy. I can jump from my window. Like, it's totally crazy.
Oh, that's lovely. And so, we're going to really get into this in a moment. And I will just add you, Talita, Ryan. I should have actually put that into all the later things. But it is genuinely a delight because a little bit behind the scenes, Talita wasn't sure if they would be able to come or not. And so it's really lovely to see you here and have you joining in our conversation.
Thank you for having me.
So, are you feeling confident?
Like, mostly yes. I'm very lucky. I have so much support. I had a great conversation last night with some streamers from Brazil, and they told me that I was the only Brazilian woman with a prototype at Spiel. We have about 100 prototypes from Brazil, so being the only one, like, it's kind of scary that like among so many people, only one woman is kind of sad, but also a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, I've been in.
So I feel confident, so I can show my equals that it's possible. They can do it. We can do it, and yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit of a burden sometimes if you're like, okay, I'm the only person from this demographic, and then you feel on your shoulders all this weight. You know, we've not talked about Essenspiel ever. Maybe Essenspiel should be the brilliant thing, although maybe that's not far-reaching enough. Should we have Essenspiel as our brilliant thing?
I think we should. I think that's a good idea. It's kind of appropriate for the time, isn't it? Don't you think?
Yeah. We had another thing planned, but let's go with brilliant thing, brilliant thing. What's the little thing, which is brilliant? And we're going to talk about Spiel meets comic action, which I think is its full title, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
You can't forget about that comic action.
No, the comics are important. Well, my eldest daughter does comics, bit of comic stuff. So it's very important.
Oh wow.
And hello, Jess. It's lovely to see you. And we've got chats in the comments about, you know, contractors just coming into your house and coming in literally anytime. That does not sound fun. So yeah, yeah. I hope that you kind of, I guess, keep your clothes on. Like, they really should just ring the bell as they're coming in. That feels just polite, doesn't it? And hello, Ed Artwin. Anyway, talking about Spiel, so this is probably the least inclusive, brilliant thing that we've talked about, where not everyone is able to go to Spiel, although this year, you know, if you are able to watch this, you can, because it's kind of online. But yeah, what is Spiel? Why is it brilliant? Why, yeah. I mean, it's a celebration of gaming and a lot of people who love games, I guess. Why is it brilliant for you, Tally?
For me, I think it's going to be the first time I'm there, so I'm very curious. I'm looking forward for the people that I'm going to meet, people I'm going to show my game, and I'm focusing mostly in showing my game around. So it takes a lot of weight out of my back and not having to pitch to publishers, for example. So it's going to be brilliant to see more people, maybe inspire more women into making games, especially in Brazil. And also have a lot of exchange with the Brazilian authors because they are like from the same culture as I am. And then I can exchange my experience as being in Europe, making my game, and then tell their stories. There are some conversations of other games that I want to make with other developers together, so we can like talk further. It's going to be good to meet people.
Yeah, all about the meetings and the sharing of what you have, and just all the conversations that happen naturally. And I think these are things that can hopefully be replicated from the real life, you know, Spiel. Why do you think it's a brilliant thing? Have you ever been to physical Spiel, Phoebe?
I went once while I was with Bezier Games, which was amazing. And it's just like I've been to Gen Con before, and I'd been to Origins and most of the big like US conventions, and then Spiel's like its whole other league in terms of size and people. Like I think it's 3 times the attendance of Gen Con, which, you know, if you go to Gen Con, it's already hordes of people. So it's really amazing to see just so many people there to enjoy this hobby, but also because Spiel has a really like inclusive family vibe, whereas Gen Con is much more like, it feels more like for real gamers, you know, like it's got more of a kind of hobbyist vibe, whereas Essen's like, oh, we'll just bring our kids along for a day and enjoy the food and look at some games and play them. So it's a really different and kind of fun, playful vibe there. It was really nice.
I mean, I've never been to Gen Con, but it's interesting that you should say that, because out of the conventions I've been to, Essen feels like, well, Spiel feels like the most exclusive, like gamery of them.
Right.
Maybe the UK ones, to me, I've not been to, you know, Salute or those wargame ones, but when I go to UK Games Expo or Aircon, and something like Festival International de Jeux is just in a different league to my mind, that's like the most inclusive, where there's all these mums bringing their kids, and the entire top floor is just for kids, and then the bottom floor is more gamery, where you might have something like Sulkin, or most of the stuff that Surprise Terror brings out would not fit in the top floor. The top floor, it has to be accessible to people younger than 12, I guess. And then, there are some things that are on both floors, but I still feel like it is fairly accessible, and there's a lovely kind of international crowd. But Alan, sorry, I've not got to ask you, why do you think it's brilliant?
I think it's very. I think Spiel is very inclusive. I think they specifically don't have. Well, that's not. I was going to say they don't have like kids areas. They do have the hall 4A, which has got it's got some food stuff in it, but it's also got things that kids, apparatus, large things like bungee jumping and things like that in it for kids. But they don't have separate areas for kids. But then again, there are loads and loads of stands where whole families can get together and play games. Lots. And you can let your children, if they're old enough, you can let your children just wander around and find things that are appropriate for their age group. So in that sense, I think there's a kind of more general welcoming to families. And we've had lots of cases where you get whole family, grandparents and parents and young kids all going around the Spiel together, and that's really good. I do remember we had one little occurrence when we were selling Bloody Legacy. We had I think it was a woman who must have been slightly more than 60 come up and complain about the horrible nature of the game, because it's all about whacking people over the head and being eaten by sharks and things like that. And she was explaining about it and said, it's a really terrible game and how it's a really bad influence on kids. I'd like 3 more copies, please. So she was actually buying it as presents for her family. But so that kind of thing can happen at Spiel. Although it has got a lot of, if you can call it, hobby gamers go, particularly, but in Germany and other areas around Essen, like into Netherlands and Belgium, Luxembourg, all the way around there, all families can go for a day out to Spiel, and I think that happens a lot, and I like that. And it's 150 more now 170,000, climbing up to 200,000 people when it's physical convention, and that's, I mean, if you like, the essence of Essen is meeting people, isn't it? I mean, we find that we have returning customers who we only see at Essen, but they always come around our stand, and it's like meeting old friends. Even if you only see them once a year, it's meeting old friends, and that's fantastic. We love that.
I mean, Xates has a bit of a negative comparison relative to UK Games Expo, saying that there's not as much gaming going on and people aren't as interested in meeting others at Essen compared to UK Games Expo. I think that what it is for me is that Essen is such like a pilgrimage. I mean, UK Games Expo, I'm not going to deny, I enjoy it more. Parts of that might be because I'm able to have this big group of people. I have a bigger space, and I feel like I'm more able to use this, and it is a bit cheaper to go to UK Games Expo for me, not just because of the travel cost, but also because of the stand cost. It's a wee bit cheaper, and I'm not going to lie, it is a wee bit easier to get a particular style of stand I do like. But we're not here to diss on Essen, and Andrew January says Essen is much more business and networking. I mean, let me talk about some things that you only get at Essen. Booth parties. Like, after the show closes, you can't,
I'm not going to leave for this because it's the online edition, so no party for me.
I'm sorry, Tally. I mean,
yes, it's sad. That is sad that we can't do the after show going round to somebody's party in a hotel, or indeed on a party in a
yeah, basically,
in a
if you've
booth.
got a big enough booth, then you can just invite people to come round your place. And back in the day, you know, it would be like, okay, I'd get invited to Zhugamik, you know, it would be a bit strange if they didn't invite, you know, designers, to be fair. But to their booth party, and then meeting all these French people, and then the person would be like, oh yeah, come to see us, we're Yellow, we're having this party. And every night there would be like a different French person, French or Belgian person doing a party at their stand, and they'd have beer. Like I remember a booth party where it was morning. They had the most amazing party ever, where like it was still going apparently at 2 a.m. I left at 11:30, and
right.
you know, that's not something you have at UK Games Expo. It feels like Essen. It's just a bit more wild. It's a bit more. I don't know.
Well, with Essen, you've got easier access to hotels and restaurants. So lots of companies at Essen will you know, they'll have restaurant or hotel parties or gatherings, and that's really good, because you can have in-depth conversations with for business purposes, or with other friends. So we often go to a Lookout Games session in a restaurant somewhere, and that kind of thing is you don't get in UK Games Expo, because with the best will in the world, NEC is kind of not easily accessible to anywhere which has got lots of hotels and restaurants like Essen.
Like there's
it's not,
the
it's not as easy.
restaurants, there's those things. Like we had a nice table, but you have to make reservations well in advance.
So the best part of Essen is after the event, when people get together and go to eat and make parties. So
pretty much, yeah. And hello, Michael. Hello,
Hi,
Alex.
Michael.
Yeah. But going back to what you said about,
we're just talking about Essen. That's our brilliant thing today.
The UK Games Expo being more accessible or more family oriented. There's much more. There's open gaming at UK Games Expo. Now Essen doesn't really have that, but that's quite deliberate, because in the sense the point of Essen has always been for publishers to show off their new stuff. So at Essen you'll have these massive stands with the large publishers, with loads of tables, so that people can go and play the new games. And that's, in a sense, that's the focus of it. Whereas UK Games Expo doesn't really have that so much. It's much more, I mean, okay, it is to an extent family oriented, and they have kids stuff, and they have organized tournaments, and it's more focused on open gaming and open play. Whereas Essen is definitely about, here's the latest releases. This is where you go for latest releases. At the moment, people don't go to UK Games Expo necessarily to get the new stuff. I mean, for Essen,
it is
over
1,000. UK Games Expo
over
is
1,000 new games
for an international thing. But
yes,
at Essen, you get people coming in from Iran, from Brazil. I mean, sure, UK Games Expo, you're starting to get the Americans. I don't think I've seen any Australians there. Have there been any Australians?
We'll have to be the first ones. I mean, we don't have many Australian-based publishers, I guess. We probably have like 2 or 3, at best 3, that I can think of. But maybe I'll have to be one of the first Australian companies over there for exhibiting once it starts up again.
And yeah, Xates reminds us of the whole kerfuffle with the Iranians not getting visas. But, you know, they were meant to come, and they were planning to come, and you could still buy their games. And Tony Boydell bought the games, and we played them together.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it feels definitely like the biggest kind of international fair that you've got. And I think that the digital version, even though I totally feel you, Michael, I totally feel you that like it's just not quite as good as, you know, the real thing. You don't have like the party where you kind of just sidle along and like, am I allowed to be here? I'm just going to surreptitiously pick up a drink and then pretend like I belong here. And
that's what everyone's doing. That's what everyone's doing, though, Beth. That's what you don't know. No one thinks they belong there.
No, I mean, like, some
yes.
people get actually invited to the parties. Like, I'm talking specifically about the parties. Like, if I've been invited by Jukemik, it's like, okay, but going along to the blue orange party, it's like, do I belong here? Am I allowed to just pick up this food and start drinking their drinks? And then, like, you get talking to, like, the person who's responsible for looking at the games. And then it's like, great, let's swap business cards. And that's how networking happens. Yeah, basically. Exactly. Just kind of going along and
networking it's just drinking, really. So yeah, that's basically what networking is. Which is bad for me, because I don't really drink alcohol much nowadays.
Oh,
I know, it's a bit sad, but there we go.
No, I was saying to Michael, never feeling comfortable at any industry parties.
They don't. Well, it's not. Yeah, they don't feel like industry parties. People aren't in suits. They are at Nuremberg, but not at Essen. The Nuremberg Toy and Games Fair is a proper industry bash, really. So yeah, you get people in power suits, yeah, for sure.
But I think if we draw a line under the brilliant thing for today, which I think, we deserve to give a shout out to a major convention like Essen, which over the decades, hello, Johan, it is lovely to see you. And we are just finishing up talking about the brilliant thing, which is Essen, which even though this year it's only digital, sad times, it is still having a little bit about this amazing international community where everyone is coming, and it is still much more international, I think, than any of the digital conventions that have happened so far. But we will see. I guess maybe we should have a chat about that in a couple of weeks.
Yep, I think so. We'll do a wash up like we did with the UK Games Expo.
WallyCon did have some international people with the losers and myself, but it's not really an anyway. So let's move on to talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing delights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. And I encourage anyone in the comments to share what recent highlights you've got. And here we will go in this order, if that's cool. So going Alan, Phoebe, Tally. So Alan, what are some of your recent highlights?
Well, trouble is, most of my stuff has been preparing for Spiel Digital at the moment.
That's cool.
So I've been doing that. So I haven't really. Well, we played some things on Friday. I've been playing Quartermaster General quite a lot, actually. That's hence you can see it over here. I like that game. So that's always a highlight for me. But it's preparing for Spiel Digital, which is taking a lot of time, because it involves manipulating the facilities that they've given us for constructing the stand is tricky. Yeah,
it's surprising how long it takes to prepare even for a digital thing, even when you've already done a digital thing.
Yeah. So I mean, that's my highlights, and it's been fun to do. It's been fun to do. I'm looking forward to the denouement over Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Should be great.
Andrew January talks about starting a new batch of hot sauce.
Ooh.
So homemade hot sauce. I wasn't aware this was something you did. That sounds exciting. And playing games online with their brother and niece. And what were you about to say, Alan?
We played Kingdom Builder with my family on Sunday, which was good.
Nice.
Although I lost terribly. But there we go. That happens occasionally. Yeah.
The follow-up, well, I mean, lots of people saw it as a follow-up to Dominion because, it's got a similar modularity. It's the same designer, but it's, so different.
Yes,
Such a different game.
Yeah, I like Kingdom Builder because it's a nice and streamlined design. It takes, face-to-face takes about 45 minutes. You can almost, within 5 minutes of that, you can guarantee the length. It's easy to teach. It's a very nice game. I like it, and it works with lots of different. It works with non-gamers as well as hobby gamers. So it's a good, solid, enjoyable experience. It's a bit like an old friend, You just And you got a one. I like the fact you got a 1-card hand. That's good, you know. And you haven't got any choice. You got to play it. I like that's the kind of thing I like.
Oops. Sorry. Xate says that they have gotten some packages on the way, but they got surprise groceries in a package from Mark Peebles because they can't go to the grocery store at the moment, which was a lovely thing. And packages are indeed brilliant.
Yes.
It's true.
Alex received 3 mystery packages. They got garlic and blank dice.
Okay. Is
your
garlic a game?
I think garlic is just separate. I'm not sure what's going on.
I mean, you can never have too much garlic. This is true. So,
vampire-free game.
Yes.
And wow, you once watched 3 movies at the cinema. That's quite a bit.
Wow.
Good. Yeah.
I've not watched a film for ages and done some test 3D printing. Awesome. And so, yeah, Idol Michael managed to get affiliates on Twitch. That's pretty awesome. Do think about whether you want to agree, though, because make sure that you read all the terms and conditions so you know what you're agreeing to before you do it. Yes, well done. And Alex got Mega City and Adventure Mart.
Ooh.
Oh, Duchess has a garlic farm and sent Aqua and Xate blank dice along with the garlic. That
makes sense. Kind of. Yeah, it does make sense. Yes.
Cool. I'm glad you're reading through it because you will notice that I have decided not to go affiliate. And, you know, everyone make up their own decision, but it's just, don't just think, oh, I've been allowed to do it, therefore I totally should. Oh, and Dartswin says, for me, discovering this community is their highlight. Oh, that's lovely. Let's get back to Phoebe. What have been some of your recent highlights?
Well, Mark and I bought a hammock for our balcony, so that's been really nice. Because it's getting warmer here, obviously, and so we've got a nice big balcony, but we haven't really used it for the couple of years we've lived here. So we got a hammock, and now we can just lie out there, and our rats like playing in the hammock too. So they love like running around and then hiding in a blanket and then like sticking their head out and sniffing the air, and it's very cute. So that's been fun. What else? Oh, we had the Shut Up and Sit Down convention on the weekend just been, so that was really good for us. Quinn said they liked our shirts. He liked our shirts, so that was kind of a really cool moment for me as well.
Yeah, I think I saw them wearing your stuff, and then I said, hey, and then I added you. But, you know, you don't get pinged or anything. But yeah, Jordan's. Okay. So, Tally, what is your thing?
Well, preparing for Kickstarter and for Stardew. And besides, I play tested a very cool game from a friend of mine, and it's going to be released in Brazil by Meeple BR, the Brazilian Meeple. And it's about graffiti and hip hop culture. It was very fun. And apart from it, Kickstarter video was done, and I'm super happy. Yeah, but to be honest, my last days were like very much focused on preparing for Stardew and for Kickstarter, like a lot of work.
But congratulations on all you've done. I saw that you broke over 100, I think it's 104 followers last time I looked. And so that's really awesome.
I am so happy. I feel it's not the reality. Like I feel I'm in a dream, and then I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be in my apartment in Brazil back some years ago. Like, okay, it was all a dream.
We've got shout outs for robot code names. How does that differ from normal code names?
So it's a game called Hey Robot, and basically you have to get Google to say the word when you ask her a question, or Alexa, or whichever speaker you use.
We played that with, Xate suggested that one time. That was a really nice game.
Yeah,
I've never heard it referred to as robot code names. It doesn't seem like code names very much to me.
I guess it's got the word cards.
Yeah.
Which makes it a bit similar, but yeah.
This is my highlight.
Oh, I
I
haven't played it.
I just got it last weekend. People would have seen me do an unboxing at the end of Saturday. Sates was here and Dina was here. I think it was after Alan left. I was just...
I saw the tapestry unboxing.
But
I mean, that,
yeah.
in a sense, that was the recent highlight, but it's a bit long ago now, isn't it? Saturday's BESCON. But that was quite a while ago now. Feels like ages ago, but it was only Saturday.
I went over to see McCall and Chris, which is always a lovely thing. And, you know, we've decided, because we're seeing literally no one except for, you know, each other. And I'm literally not touching anyone. I've decided that, well, basically, McCall and Chris and I are allowed to hug now, which is quite nice. That's definitely a highlight. And we played My Little Scythe. I took it over and taught the game. It went reasonably well. There is a couple of parts in the rules that at least one part, I'm still really annoyed by the start player rules. Okay, I'm just going to say this because this frustrates me so much. Sorry.
What's the start player rule?
Well,
I'm curious.
It's your show, Bez. You can go on.
So start player rule. First player, randomize the action tokens to determine the start player. I mean, what does that mean?
Randomize the start token.
I mean, I guess I understand.
Shuffle them up.
Yeah, and then like take one out randomly. That's not explanatory at all.
No,
it would have been better if they just said choose it randomly.
Yeah,
that's not even giving you a way to do it.
They
if this is your first game or you've never done that before, that is not a helpful descriptor.
They need Paul Grogan on their rules writing.
Yeah.
Honestly, at this point, I had already I decided to take a pencil just so I remembered when I eventually. But like this bit was kind of really questionable. This bit, and with where the bases are meant to be, is really unclear. And then you've got to make lots of assumptions, which is just not. I felt like, you know, I understand what Jamie means, but if this was your first game, this would not be a rule book that you would be able to follow. And that is quite disappointing, to be honest.
I playtested it, and I don't remember it having those issues in the playtest rules, but I've also might not have been looking for it, because if you're a seasoned gamer, you just instinctually know what that sentence means, and you don't necessarily go, oh, someone else doesn't know what it means. Yeah. I don't know.
I did feel like it was quite long in rules for being a game for such a young audience, and I could imagine like someone who's very young, because Ellie's always talking about how, you know, even 6-year-olds, we underrate what they could actually do. So yeah, sure, this could be played by 8-year-olds. There is an awful lot going on.
Is it 8 plus? Is it?
Yep, it says 8 plus. I think that how old's Oscar?
Oscar's 6. Yeah.
I mean, I could imagine maybe in a couple of years, if they're interested, that's the key thing. If you're interested and you've got an adult to help guide you along, I think that this game would be fine.
Well, Oscar can play Niagara. He has played Niagara.
And we played
Colt Expression together. And Colt Expression thing. Yeah.
Like this definitely feels a step up from that. It feels like there's just a few more options, and yeah, it's nice. Like we ended up playing it a couple of times, and afterwards McCall said, you know, they enjoyed it and they'd be up for playing it again. So that's was a good sign. So it might be something that we play, you know, a few more times. But yeah, it's, I don't know, there's something slightly underwhelming about it. I can't quite put my finger on. But I enjoyed it. That's my kind of first impression for now.
That's good.
And hello, CD. CD says they generally use the Schwazi app to.
I love the Schwazi app.
Yeah, we do that as well.
McCall and Chris and I play simultaneous rock, paper, scissors. So the three of us play rock, paper, scissors with each neighbor. If you win 2, then, you know, you've definitely won. And basically if 2 people, basically it's kind of like rock, paper, scissors knockout tournament. So each time it's like, okay, is there someone who's won less, because you can win up to 2 times between 0 and 2. So is there someone who's won less rock, paper, scissors than everyone else while they get knocked out? And sometimes it takes us like 10 rounds of rock, paper, scissors. Sometimes it takes us 1.
You've got a whole game just to decide who the start player is. That seems a tad excessive.
No, it's fun. It's fun.
Do that, except everyone just does 1 rock, paper, scissors, and then if there's only 2 symbols total, then whoever's the losing symbol gets knocked out. If that makes sense.
That feels like things would have to line up a lot more. Like we do my right hand with Chris's left hand, my left hand with McCall's right hand, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get it, yeah.
That way, it's like, okay, you could draw on this side and win on this side. But yeah, that's us. Other people roll a d20 and pick a player piece. New segment, Bez's underwhelming highlights. But it was still a highlight. You know, definitely the hug was and seeing each other was better than the game. But, you know, the game was enjoyable enough that I would, even if I hadn't like said that I was going to review it, I would play it again for pleasure. That is a thing. And
I think it's quite interesting that even in a 2-player game, sometimes you reach for Schwazi to decide on the start player when you've got a blue piece and a yellow piece and you can put them in your hands and do it like that, and it takes 2 seconds to do, and yet you'll go for Schwazi and it'll take longer and be more complicated. So using an electronic thing to do something really, really easy when you've got the pieces just to do it physically. I find that quite weird. And
it's all about the ceremony, isn't it?
I have to stop myself sometimes from doing it on Schwazi because I suppose it's a bit like tea making, isn't it? Part of making tea is it's like the tea ceremony, but it's that process of how you do it, heating up the pot and all. Yeah, it's the ritual of start player, and the Schwazi is into that whole ritual thing. Oh yeah, and you have to touch someone's phone. Good point.
I mean, it's a bit good. People are going to think about this stuff a lot more after this time. It be like, you know, maybe I don't want to put in my number into your phone, or if I do, I'm going to be more conscious that my hands have been there and not end up touching my face or eating food. Although it depends on the virus, because apparently if you eat food, it's not as bad as just inhaling and going like that. That's apparently a very dangerous thing to do. But I did wash my hands, you know, not too long ago, so it's all good. Normally, for those who aren't aware, I'm not going to go into my morning routine. Touching phones was pretty gross already. Anyway, so let's move to the questionably quick questions. This has already been very questionably how slow this is. Let's go for the quickest one. Let's go around this way. Talita Ryan, where exactly are you and what time is it?
I'm in Berlin and it's 11:38.
Phoebe?
I'm in Melbourne and it is 8:38 p.m.
PM.
Yep.
Ooh. I'm in Huntingdon. And it's what is it? It's 10:38. Yeah.
I'm in London, UK, and it's now 10:39 because the clocks moved forward just between Alan and me saying that.
You see, I like this question because although I can say I'm in Huntingdon, that's only my postal address. I'm half an hour's drive from Huntingdon. That's how locations work nowadays, isn't it?
Okay, I'll give people a minute to just see if anyone has any questionably quick questions. So you can ask any off-topic stuff right now, but we are going to do a quicker one. So I will ask just one question, and then if no one has any more questions by the end of that, we'll draw a sudden stop. So my one question for you today is, would you rather have a rat-sized elephant or an elephant-sized rat? Alan.
A rat-sized elephant. Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Phoebe.
I want an elephant-sized rat. Rats are so good.
But then that changes the whole elephant in the room. You have to say, what about the rat in the room then?
But I'd be able to cuddle it and be so soft and warm. Oh, Really nice.
Tully?
I would be willing the red size elephant, so I could keep it in my hand and take it anywhere. Would be so cute.
Yeah, I feel like the elephant-sized rats for me would just be a bit too big. I feel like I wouldn't be able to take care of it. I'd be worried about what to do with it, like about it stamping over the neighbors. That doesn't seem great. And yeah, well, you can ask your own questions. Sorry. I don't. Okay, so Jess says it's 4:39 in their house in Thailand, and it's 10:39 in Sussex. So yeah, we'll use these questions that have already been done, and then we'll stop. So, what's your favorite pancake filling? Let's go the same way.
What was
Same
the way?
way.
Oh, you mean me? Oh, I like maple syrup.
Phoebe.
Lemon and sugar.
Sally.
Difficult. I like the vanilla cream and yeah, chocolate chip.
I'm basically someone who wants so much filling that the pancake isn't even like parts of it anymore. If you could say, okay, I'm offering you anything inside, like,
That's
okay,
what Mark does.
Something that you might actually find in a menu, or that I'm not going to go crazy and say, okay, I want caviar or something like that. But let's say some crispy bacon, some sliced strawberries, some blueberries, and a bit of creme fraiche or full-fat yogurt. That's what I would.
You basically have toppings with a topping of pancake.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Wow. A dog with hands or a cat with a human face? Alan.
Oh, cat with a human face. I think a dog with hands sounds really dangerous. I don't want the dogs taking over. But cats, well, they've taken over already, haven't they? So
cat with human face, can't do it. Dog with hands. At least you can train dogs. At least they're friendly.
I would love a dog with hands, so I can play Doggo Dash with a dog.
But it doesn't mean they have the brain to, play the game.
It doesn't matter if they can get the cards.
Both of these actually, when I think about it, sounds cool. But I do think that having an animal that has hands, and dogs are quite friendly, so then maybe they could come over and they could give you hugs. Just imagine how lovely that would be.
Yes, or high five.
Yeah. Rather than those little paw high fives. A quick good night to CD. I hope you have a wonderful bedtime. Sugar in your hot drink of choice? What's your hot drink of choice, and do you put sugar in it? Alan?
Coffee. No, just black, please.
I have tea. I have tea and also no sugar.
Tea with no sugar as well.
Tea, no sugar, sometimes lemon. What music did you listen to today? Oh, have you listened to any music today, Alan?
Yes. Captain Beefheart's.
Nice.
I was listening to various tracks from Lick My Dickles Off, Baby, which is a 1968 album or something. Can't remember the date, but anyway, old Captain Beefheart stuff. I'm reading a biography of Captain Beefheart at the moment, so I'm heavily into it again.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Phoebe?
I've been listening to the Hadestown soundtrack, the musical, which is very good.
To that video game?
So there's a video game called Hades, but then there's also separately, not unrelated, a musical that came out last year called Hadestown. Obviously both Greek mythology based, but otherwise unrelated. But because I've been playing Hades, then I've gotten the Hadestown soundtrack stuck in my head because I'm thinking about Greek mythology. So there you go.
Yeah, I was listening to flamenco this morning. Paco de Lucia and other flamenco songs. It's good to waking up like.
Yeah.
I like that. I've not listened to, unless I went to bed technically today, because it might have been after midnight, but I've not listened to any music today so far. I got up and I had a bit of a chat with Jess. I was just kind of going around in the quiet. It was actually quite nice for a wee bit. But the last album that I put on, let me actually open. So I'm listening to Samuel Alexander, who is a musician who plays on Spotify. And they said, hey, if you are on, plays on Twitch, I wanted to say. But they said, hey, if you're streaming on Twitch, you're allowed to use my music for yourself. It's classical music as long as it's non-profit. Like, get in touch if you've got any questions. And so I listened to it. I was like, yeah, you know what? If I wanted to have music in the background, then I would totally have this kind of music. It's just lovely, peaceful stuff. We've got some interesting. I'm not going to pop up all the chats, but this is really interesting about what's
good.
Hungarian hortobágy pancakes: veal, onions, spices, pepper, and sour cream. That sounds great.
That sounds very good.
Yes, delicious.
Oh yeah, and people have talked about we could train the dogs to play poker, and yeah. Oh yeah, that is a song, isn't it? And so that is us for the questionably quick questions. So now, as we get into the main topic, I want to remind everyone to continue commenting, asking questions, chatting amongst yourselves as you like. Fun, like, follow, share all those good things. And we are talking about first Kickstarters and emotions with Alan Paull, Phoebe Wild, and Talita Ryan. Now, people have seen you on this show before, and if you are unfamiliar with these people, yeah, let's do a really quick wrap up. So, Alan, you've been creating games for so long, and you're designing, and you've been going to events for 2 decades, pretty much. How would you introduce yourself?
How would I introduce myself? I am an old guy. I'm a game designer. I design a wide variety of things. Mainly nowadays, I'm more and more interested in war game design, but I do lots of other things too. And
you do lots of self-publication, but you also design stuff for other people.
And a Captain Beefheart fan, which says something, although I'm not quite sure what. If you don't know Captain Beefheart, go and listen to some of his stuff.
Phoebe, you are currently focusing on getting excellent geeky fashion out into the world. You've done a whole bunch of marketing, but you've recently had to leave that to focus on your job full time. Yeah. Anything else you want to introduce yourself with?
No, that's it. I'm very stressed with Kickstarter logistics, so that's fun. But no, everything's going well, and we're planning phase 2 of Ludo Cherry, so excited for that.
That is super awesome. And finally, we have Talita Ryan. And Talita, we got to know each other on Twitter. You're designing your first game with a group of amazing people. We had you with Marguerite, and it's like Margherita, sorry.
Yeah, it's the Italian name, Margherita.
Anyway, so we had both of you. You're such lovely people, and with the joyous artwork, and it's a simple game for just people who want to almost turn their brain off for a bit, place cards into the center, and it's going on to Kickstarter very, very soon.
Today! 5 p.m. in Berlin. I think it's 4 p.m. in UK, and I don't know the other time zones, but it's going to be online for a while. So yeah, I think what I can say about myself is I'm a woman that refers to herself as a girl, and refuses to grow old, but also has a lot of responsibility. And yeah, like I'm doing my stuff. I do a little bit of everything, and I enjoy being around people. And I'm very happy I met Bess, because Bess connected me to a bunch of cool folks that are exchanging a lot with me, and have played a lot of cool games. We played together, and we had a lot of fun. Sometimes I was losing. I think I never won a game with Bess. Like I always play to lose. But it's okay. I play for the fun.
Oh, wait, am I? No, I'm not on mute. I just noticed Alex was a bit confused. Thought I was wrapping up. I was just wrapping up the questionably quick questions, because we've already gone 11. Like, this is the longest intro we've ever had. It's not fast. It's the opposite. Anyway, so I put the little yeah, no more questionably quick questions. We're on to the main topic, people. We need to get through this. So if you want to check it out, please click on that link, and you will be able to follow it, and you'll be able to hear when it goes live, and check it out and have a look. And if it's, I think one thing that people don't understand is that a £1 pledge is so useful from a logistical point of view. It does help you off the algorithm. And even if you are in a really rubbish financial state, if you make a pledge and then cancel it, right at the end, as long as, I would say, do a £1 pledge so that the person doesn't think, oh, you're actually pledging for a thing. But if you're in a situation where you can't, like, if you want to be like, hey, I like you, Tally, and going to support you, but you're in such a terrible financial situation, you can't afford anything, having an extra backer, having an extra person in the comments on day one really helps you get up the Kickstarter rankings, because it's all about that algorithm. Is Doggo Dash online to test?
Yes, it's on Tabletopia. It's public. You can find it and play, but you need people to play with you. If you want to play, we can set up and I can play with you and call some other friends. I would love to.
I mean, you could organize some sorts of maybe schedule to have, like, one of those doodles and say, okay, these are the times when people can play, and do it when it suits you. And yeah, sort out some sort of doodle like that and put it up onto Kickstarter. Say, hey, we are ready to demo the games at any of these times. And so
I'm building my calendar based on what free time do I have. I have 2 slots already for Friday and for Saturday to play around, I think it's 5 p.m. Berlin time. So yeah, like, people are welcome to join. It's limited to 5 people. So if we get more than 5 people, we can open more rooms. And I'm very flexible about it. I have the Discord channel for Doggo Dash, also making playtests there, mostly spontaneously, like a group of friends come and say, yeah, we want to play with you. Let's play together. And I explain the rules, and then we can play together, of course. And on Tabletopia, people are also free to play by themselves. But I would love to play with more people. So yeah, like, it's a great idea having this calendar, but I didn't have the time to organize it, so I'm going to work on it today.
There's a lot to do.
Yeah,
there is so much to do. Now I'm going to ask all the questions going clockwise, but I'm just going to shuffle the people around so that the order changes, even though we are constantly going clockwise, if that makes sense. So let's start with Origins. How did you first hear about Kickstarter? Had you backed many before you decided to launch your own back in the day, before you even thought about this? Tally.
Yes, I heard about Kickstarter before because I have some Kickstarter games myself. And many of them I bought after Kickstarter, but then I saw a Kickstarter and then I went and I saw there are many cool games going on. I backed some in my husband's account and some in my account because as we were living in Brazil, I wasn't able to. Well, I was, but it was too expensive, so we decided to go with his account, which was the European. But now I have an European account, and I back the projects myself. And the idea of making Double Dash in crowdfunding was actually Johanna's, like one of my project partners. She told me like, it's super independent, it's super cute, and I think it's good for crowdfunding if you want to stay like that, like if you like the artwork to stay like you are, and kind of to have an idea if it's a viable product and so on. And I like this, and Margarita also liked the idea, so we were like, okay, let's try crowdfunding and see how it goes. And we were learning about it the last 2 years, and like following many influencers and many other designers to see their experience. But I think there's something that is unique for each person, their Kickstarter experience. Like there's a lot that you can learn and you can read and you can prepare, but each campaign is a different campaign. So yeah, I'm very excited and very curious to see how it's going to be for me. And I'm also cheering for many other Kickstarters that are going on during October. Yeah.
So, Phoebe, same question. Can you talk about your origins and your first introductions to Kickstarter?
Yeah, so I'm just looking back through my account to see what my first ever game backed was, first ever project backed, and it was back in 2012, so it's quite a while ago now. And it was a app called Zombies Run, which is meant to be like encouraging you to like exercise and run and kind of training you to do it as well, but it had audio, basically scripted audio playing while you're running that was interactive and like playing through a story, which was like set in a post-apocalyptic zombie world, and you're like running out and back to get supplies and trying not to get caught. So it wasn't even a board game, really. I don't even know how I found that. It was probably linked somewhere on Facebook, and I stumbled across it. And it wasn't until my third project that I actually backed a game, which I must have stumbled across on BGG, and now I've backed over 100 things. So that kind of escalated pretty quickly. But yeah, I think honestly I just stumbled upon Kickstarter through, seeing a project on Facebook that I'm interested in and being like, oh, that sounds cool. And it was much smaller, 8 years ago. I don't know when they started, but it must have been pretty early on. Yeah, and then for Ludo Cherry, it made sense for us to use it because we needed so much. The production run that we need to do was so large that it made sense to do a pre-order, especially so we could gauge like which sizes were most popular and which colors were most popular, so we could accurately kind of predict that and not be out of lots of supplies or lots of making the wrong things, I guess. So yeah, and it worked really well for that.
Yeah, that's a lovely thing. And for the record, it started, according to Wikipedia, April 28th, 2009.
Oh, there you go. So it's pretty early on. Yeah.
Alan, what was your introduction?
Well, I think I've only backed a couple of Kickstarters myself. I'm because I've tended to get my games through Essen rather than through other means. I haven't backed a lot of stuff, but my first introduction was really when Indie Boards and Cards put our Snowdonia game on Kickstarter. I mean, we weren't actually involved in running it or anything like that, but they put that on Kickstarter, and we learned a little bit about Kickstarter from that project. And then later on, we had our big Snowdonia Deluxe Master Set, which again was on Kickstarter, but again run by a different company. So my early experience was only really kind of peripheral until our first proper Kickstarter, which was February this year. But I'm sure we'll come on to that. So I mean, I backed Dave Turtzy's Pocket Dragon game, which was hell, when was that? 2 or 3 years ago. That was my first one, but that was more backing it because it was one of Dave Turtsy's things, rather than it was backing it for personal reasons to support Dave Turtsy, rather than because I'm a Kickstarter kind of player.
I am actually, after Phoebe, yes, Eddie looked at Sturfing, I looked at my own Kickstarter history, and yeah, it was my first ever thing that I backed was the Emperor's New Clothes. I don't know if people are familiar with that, from Jonathan Liu of Geek Dad. And it was this game where it was just white components, and it was like white dice and then blank white cards. And the idea was that, oh, everyone can see this game. So it was like themed around the Emperor's New Clothes. So it's kind of like a meta game where you're meant to be pretending that you're playing a game, and then someone else comes over and says, oh, what are you playing? And you say, oh, can't you see this? This is special technology where you can only see the game components if you are like a certain type of person. Oh, apparently Michael ran that campaign. Wow. So there you go. So I backed that, but I did cancel my pledge, I think, towards the end, because I was like, you know what, I really like the idea. I really like the notion of it existing, but I can't afford the asking price. So I kind of, oh, whoa, really? You got death threats over this? My gosh, that's, wow. And I know lots of people came into Kickstarter via Double Fine. And, but yeah, I'm just going to share this screen, although I'm not this might be slightly embarrassing. It's like the amount of stuff that was cancelled or dropped, and then a lot of the stuff that was actually pledged was unsuccessful. I really wanted the London Bubble Football League to actually happen. Someone was going to make, football, in those giant bubbles, and it would be like a proper competitive league, but it didn't happen. And all, like, most of these things were unsuccessful. And then, yeah, some of them, because I didn't have enough money in my accounts at the time, it was dropped. So I am that really bad Kickstarter backer who pledges, and then you don't get the money, and I'm very sorry. This was many years ago. And then looking at what the first one was that I actually pledged and was successful, like so many unsuccessful and cancelled Kickstarters.
Really interesting. That's a really, really interesting set of Kickstarter backings you got there.
So, like, yeah, I think
I kind of almost want to say, don't back my projects, please.
yeah, there's yeah. Wait. Oh, this is my unsuccessful pledges. Okay, that's why.
That's
okay. That makes so much sense.
Okay. In that case,
so
you can change. You can back my projects then. Fine. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a separate tab for this. Okay, there's a separate tab for this one. Okay, so let me scroll down to see what the first one was. But but yeah, I don't know. Oh, there we go. To be is or not to be. That is the adventure. That's the first one, which was by Ryan North. This is a lovely work, and I did definitely get it. And yeah, when was it run? It was. It's sometimes hard to tell. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was familiar with it. Shortly before running my own Kickstarter in 2014, but yeah, then yeah, that just really sorry about Michael, but yeah, let's talk about us now. How did you launch your first Kickstarter, or when will you do so? How many Kickstarters have you done? I know it's 0 for you, Tally, but let's start with you. Sorry, Tally, you need to unmute yourself.
Yes, my mouse is a bit odd here. I'm going to launch my first Kickstarter today, and I wish, like I feel that I will make more, but I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm very excited, afraid, blah, blah. So let's see how it goes. But yeah, I think that maybe this first time is like that. And then the next time can be a little less scary.
Sorry, Phoebe.
Yeah, so I've helped manage and do marketing for maybe 6 to 8 Kickstarters, I think, with Bezier Games. I started with them while they were doing their One Night Ultimate Alien campaign. And then I think I did, about 6 to 8 with them. And then I launched my own Kickstarter, Ludo Cherry, this year. So we launched in March, finished start of April, and hopefully we'll have more to come next year as well. It's what we're working on.
Nice. Alan?
We launched our first Kickstarter in February this year. Not the most auspicious time. So we actually ended on the 16th of March, and that was our first one. So we only had one. I think we probably will do more Kickstarters. And having done it once, you learn a lot. So we probably will do more.
And a quick hello to, I assume, Gareth from Jones Family Game Night. Lovely to see in the comments. And so hopefully people in the comments have a vague idea of who we are, what our current situation is about Kickstarter. Oh, and I should say, I didn't answer this question. I launched my first Kickstarter in summer 2014. I've done about 8, I want to say. All of them are successful, and half of them have been projects we loved, which is quite a nice ratio.
That's really good.
My first one, that's what we're about to talk about. What was your expectation going into that first Kickstarter? I'm going to start this question, and then Phoebe and so forth. What emotional journeys did you expect? Frankly, I expected to be like, okay, I'll put it up, and then, people will just find it, and then I'll be amazed, and then, because this is a really good game, and maybe, a million people would want it, but I need to be very careful, because that's lots of work. If, 100,000 people all want to buy my game, I've got to make sure to charge enough so that I can pay other people to do the, logistics side of it. So I charged like 12 quid, which at the time I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to print, but might be okay. That gives me 4 quid to kind of pay someone else to do the whole logistics bit. And then, of course, it didn't quite happen like that, because even though I had like a really funny video on there, and even though I thought like this game is amazing and people should just be able to see that, everyone's going to come across this page just randomly. Why wouldn't they? Surely that's how the world works. People just randomly happen across literally everything that goes up on Kickstarter. And then I'll be delighted that everyone sees it, and then everyone will pledge. And so on, I launched it before the page was like 100% finished. I thought like there would be kind of a continual stream of people. I thought it would just be like people stumble upon it time to time. I hadn't done my research at all. I thought like the number of people happening across it would be fairly linear, if you know what I mean. And so I had a 58-day campaign, because I was like, longer gives people more chance to see it. Do you know what I mean? Clearly that makes sense.
Yeah.
I had done enough research to know that apparently Tuesday is the best day to start, and the Thursday is the best day to finish. So I was like, okay, well, people keep saying do a 30-day campaign. I can't understand why. Why not do a 58-day campaign? Screw all these people. And then I basically started off with this page, which was not even as good as the page that you see today, which is still not as good as most really nicely polished pages. This is for In a Bind, back before it was Yogi, and you can still see that by looking at my Kickstarter, although my Kickstarter page is just called Buy Bez, because that was back when I used to call myself by Bez before I called myself Stuff by Bez. Before I realized if people say, "Oh, this is a game by Bez," that's a bit weird, and people didn't always say that. So it's like, "By Bez is my company." Anyway, so then yeah, I made the Kickstarter page nicer. I did a lot of things, and I was expecting to have this thing, but yeah, that was my expectation, that people just magically stumble upon it. And I was actually planning for, okay, what if I get 100 times my funding goal? What if I get 2 times my funding goal? Okay, at what point do I start enlisting other people to help me do all this? Anyway, so that was my crazy over the top expectations. Phoebe.
My expectation is so pessimistic. I try to be the least pessimistic possible, so everything could be affordable. But I was like, I was like making the calculations with the girls based on, okay, very few people will be interested, and then they were saying like, no, you have to think a bit more than that, because then it's not worth to put on Kickstarter. So you have to find a balance between like being pessimistic and being realistic and being optimistic, so that you're kind of in the level. I don't know if I reach that. I will see. We talk next month when the campaign is over about it.
Phoebe, what expectations did you have?
I think I had pretty accurate expectations going in, because I'd worked for Bezier and done seen kind of the course of a lot of different Kickstarters, and I kind of knew, especially like because those Kickstarter had been in the last few years, so the culture of Kickstarter was very similar to when I launched, which, you know, the culture of Kickstarter 6 years ago when you ran your first Kickstarter would have been very different. Whereas now, like, stretch goals are kind of the expectation. A very well put together, very polished page is kind of the expectation. Of finished product is the expectation, especially in tabletop. And so I kind of knew all that, and we went in very much looking at it as not purely a marketing platform, but as something where you have to go in and bring your audience with you. You can't generate an audience within Kickstarter. Like, you need a pre-existing audience, and then going into that, bring them to the Kickstarter and give them a reason to support you. So much of our, you know, the 2 years before we launched was building our mailing list and building that passionate community that would then follow us and support us. So yeah, I think what we hoped for and what we kind of thought would happen was pretty realistic in the end.
I mean, maybe you're benefited by coming from a bit of a marketing background, because I think my crazy expectation was just like someone would see this and say, "Hey guys, this is actually looks like a really fun game. Everyone should back this." And then at some point, I don't know when along the way, at some point during like the first 50 days, maybe it would just go viral because everyone realizes that it's this crazy game and it's really good. But yeah, different expectations.
I also think, like, if your first Kickstarter had been this year, like, you would have seen, like, tabletop Kickstarters have changed drastically since 2014. So I think thinking that then is very different to thinking that now, if that makes sense. Like, you couldn't look at the landscape of Kickstarter now and be like, oh yes, I'll just be found, because I think the stats of how many unsuccessful projects there are is kind of like it's a little bit sad when you think about it. So you have to try to, like, you can do all the right things, I guess, and still not reach your funding goal. And we see people doing that a lot, unfortunately. Yeah, so it's hard.
As you say, there's more history to draw upon from now, and so we have something to set our expectations more properly. Sally, do you have anything to add on this?
Well, I've been working building a community for Dogo the last 2 years, and what I see is that since it's kind of like a clusterized, because the board game scene itself is like the cluster I belong it's a kind of small, which is like the pro-diversity, pro-feminism, Black Lives Matter, blah, blah, which is like many folks, but it's not the whole industry. So I started to see, okay, my game is a niche game, and I won't be trying to reach out to people that are not my target group anymore. Like after testing, I got to the conclusion, like, who are the folks in my target group, and focus on them, and focus on showing the game to these kind of people. And it's what I'm going to do during the campaign as well, because like I think there is a thing that we shoot everywhere, and then we see, oh, okay, so this sticks, and at some point you just have to kind of funnelize and see, okay, what's possible from my project. And I know that, for example, I'm not going to have 100% more funding than I am expecting. I think I'm going to be like a small project and going to stay as a small project. And yeah, I hope we succeed, but I'm not going to be the one saying, in 24 hours we are going to be funded. Like, it's not what I want. I just want the game to be published, like to be printed and shipped, and that's my goal. And anything happens that we can get more than that, perfect. But our plan is like to stay small and independent.
Alan.
Yeah, ours was a bit different, I think, in that we were our Kickstarter's 2 games. It was the Ming Voyages and my own March of Progress, and it was in a series. I just established that we were going to build on our previous game, the Cousins War, and also we were doing our Kickstarter in conjunction with Two Tomatoes Games in Spain and Frosty Games in Germany. So we were actually offering the games in English, French, German, Spanish. So in a way, I think it's not a typical Kickstarter. And going back to what Phoebe said, no Kickstarter they're all individual. Each project is individual. We treated it like an individual project. In terms of kind of expectations, because we had a track record of selling things through Surprise Day Games, and we had a following already. I mean, I think I was trying to have realistic expectations, hopes, but realistic expectations, and we were intending to publish anyway. So we were using this as a marketing and pre-ordering tool. So unless it had been a complete disaster, the idea was to publish and sell at UK Games Expo and at Essen. Now, of course, because of the circumstances of this year, that's not actually happening in quite the way we wanted it. So that's been a bit of a damper. But I mean, I would say Excel, unfortunately, and there are other spreadsheets available, is your friend in this. So having the thing in black and white and the calculations in front of you is really, really helpful. But also having an experienced Kickstarter company as a partner. So although I was doing a lot of the management and I was responding to the comments, having somebody like Two Tomatoes who've done a lot of Kickstarters before, there, it gives you a good grounding in expectations. I mean, I kind of feel of it. It's a bit like a sack race. My expectations, it's a bit like a sack race. You really want to be in the top 3. There's going to be ups and downs along the way, and you might fall over. I think that's my initial expectations of this, really. But having a lot of supporting systems, this is where the sack race analogy falls over. But having a lot of support from other people who've done it before is really, 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 really helpful.
I think that's it. It's like kind of having that knowledge, whether it's from others, your partners like Two Tomatoes, or from your own experience. And nowadays, obviously, there is so much more from Jamie Stegmaier, James Maffei, rest in peace, and other folk who, yeah.
But I think the fact that our Kickstarter went February, March this year, so the circumstances changed, and that hit our. I mean, my expectations in January were very different from my expectations in March. Because you just couldn't tell what the impact of this was going to be.
And let's quickly, in less than a minute, if we can, what was your preparation? What was your funding goal? Frankly, as you might have already understood from what I previously said, I did next to no preparation. I did tell people on the 3rd and subsequent days I was planning to do some videos, and which I did in the middle of the campaign because I didn't realize you wanted stuff at the start. My funding goal was about just under 3,000, so about 2,900 quid, something like that. Phoebe?
Yeah, our goal was 25,000 Australian dollars. So I don't know what that translates to right now in USD. The exchange rate's all over the place. But basically, we needed about 300 backers to make it. And we did a lot of things to prepare. It's a long list. We took, honestly, about 2.5 years to prep from like conception through to launch, just because it was such a unique product. But yeah, as I said, the main thing was like building awareness and community. So a lot of that is, social media, obviously, mailing list, attending conventions, just kind of word of mouth, being a presence, and a lot of outreach to press and reviewers as well, which got us some like awesome coverage on the Nerdist. We're now on Game Informer and things like that. So that's really helped us out.
Very nice. And for those who care, 25,000 Australian dollars is 17,600 US dollars, or 13,500 British pounds.
Cool.
Sally?
Well, our goal is pretty much the amount, the minimum amount that we can print for an affordable price, I would say, which is 1,870 euros. So this is pretty much what we need to make one basic print of the game, since we are doing local. Everything, we were not calculating for many backers or thousands of backers. We were trying to keep it small, and we are like sure that it's going to be something about it, not very much more than that. And whatever comes that is above it, it's going to help us to deal with shipping and deal with the whole reward stuff as well, because our focus is pretty much in making the decks, and then if people help us kickstart like the decks, we can work in the other stuff and improve the decks and improve the product itself. Yeah, that's how we looked at it, because what we've been talking to other Kickstarters is like, what's the goal should be like the minimum amount necessary that you can actually make the game exist, and not the total amount of the money that you actually need for the amount of backers, like the minimum amount. So we were shooting pretty low, and I hope it works.
But presumably, even if you get to that minimum amount, you will still be able to do it without being. It will be enough to cover your costs.
No, I'm already aware that I will have to put some money from my savings on it, but I'm okay with it because I prefer investing on the game this way, that I know that people are going to play the game and have a good quality product and ethical, made like eco-friendly and also people-friendly, because we are talking to printers that are having workers that have their rights and they are well paid. So we are thinking about this stuff. So that's why I was not thinking about mass production at any point. But if it comes that we have more, we have to produce more copies than needed, it's possible. Like we have this possibility, but our plan is to make this small production first and see how it goes. It's pretty much experimental, I would say, because I'm taking it as I took when I was a teenager making zines, like these small magazines that you did. I was doing this a lot as a teenager, and I'm taking the project pretty much like a grown-up version of this.
And obviously, Tally's got the most interesting stories in some ways because Tally is living it right now, and it makes me realize that I really feel for you. Again, not to bring up too much sad stuff, but because games like Doggo Dash or In a Bind, now known as Yogi, you know, it does really well at a convention where people can just see it and be like, oh yeah, this is actually quite fun. I'm going to give it a go. Because something like you know, Monstrous by Good Games. That was by Good Games, right?
Yeah, that was.
Like you can sort of see, okay, there's a bit of dexterity, but there's also this gorgeous artwork, and it's a new mixture of dexterity and strategy, and so like, yeah, I backed it because it was like this brand new thing, and yeah, just yeah, some games aren't as good on Kickstarter, but they can be better even at craft fairs and stuff. And I know that MMA doesn't have a lot of success on Kickstarters, but has sold, you know, tens of thousands of copies personally by actually managing to establish connections as a single person with some fairly major chains, and eventually went on to sell it to Gibson's. But that's a different story, which I think everyone's happy in that situation. But yeah, sorry for the wee tangent, Alan.
Yeah, our funding goal was €12,500 because we were working with 2 EU countries. We went for euros. Now we did a lot of preparation. In a way, already having done the Cousins War, which is the same box size, very similar contents, costings weren't too difficult, but we did a lot of preparation for this. For example, I actually kind of did quite a lot of planning, marketing, and planning what I was going to do, and we got some, because the games were nearly finished when we launched. We got reviews done for putting on the Kickstarter page right from the get-go, and that was really helpful. And we established some stretch goals we wanted to engage the community with. So we did a lot of work. I mean, bizarrely, I mean, I think Phoebe was saying that doing a Kickstarter now is very different from, you know, 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, I originally kind of sketched out and did a kind of page, which I thought was probably the kind of thing we wanted. And the Two Tomatoes guys took that and completely revamped all the graphics, for example. I mean, we did some sample graphics, and I felt they were probably okay-ish, but no, we went, got all the graphics, you know, done professionally by people who knew exactly what they were doing, and that was a big eye-opener for me, because you kind of have to make it look really, really slick nowadays, and so that was a huge thing to do, including we got quotes from the reviews, and we planned to do video playthroughs and tutorials as well with the games. So yeah, a lot of preparation. So I think that by the time we got to the launch day, we were fairly confident that we were going to at least meet the goal. And we set it at €12,500. This was not the full price of the whole project, because we were intending to sell later on anyway. It was going to go into retail. So it was an interesting project in that sense. There were complications which we had to sort out, because we were shipping to 4 different languages. Obviously, you have to make provision for shipping to the US, and we had people be able to pledge for one game or other, or both games, and we had a retail pledge as well. So there was a lot of planning and prep on that, which made a huge difference. I felt reasonably confident going into it, to be honest. Even though it was the first one, because of that amount of preparation.
So it sounds like
you can never do enough. You can never do enough prep. You need to do lots of preparation, I think, nowadays. And you need. It was partly, I think, what Phoebe said, bringing the community with you, and then building on that community through the Kickstarter. That's what we were looking at.
So I feel you've already answered this question, that you had confidence and that was your overlying mood. And so I'm going to pose the same question to Tally for how did you actually feel when, how are you feeling when, now that you're about to launch your Kickstarter in, what is it, 4 hours?
I think so. Yeah, it's like 12:30 now. Oh, it's coming. I'm very excited. I'm anxious. I think I am not so market oriented as my colleagues here, because I'm pretty much from the punk rock background. So it's everything do it yourself, but of course in a very responsible way. I cared about building a community, and I know those communities, the people that they are the people that are pro representation. They are mostly LGBTQ. They are pretty much okay about the whole development of the game, and about the game being super simple and super quick. So I think I know my community is small, but it's very reliable. So I'm pretty sure we can get there. And I would be very happy if I could reach out to more people. And also, I really want to bring the game to Brazil, because it's where I come from, and where most of my friends and where my family is. And having the production of the game here makes it a bit too expensive for Brazil. But if everything goes well here, then I can set up a local campaign in Brazil, and sell the game in an affordable price, but also thinking about the ethical conditions. And of course, I would have to be there to check the printers and talk to the manufacturers and blah, blah, blah. And with COVID, it's a bit complicated now, but let's future Talita take care about it. The Talita of today is very excited to launch the project.
And it sounds like you've got all these grand visions and a kind of, oh, will it even happen? It sounds, yeah, I totally relate to that. And Phoebe, was it a similar thing for you, that uncertainty, that excitement, or did you feel more confident like Alan?
We were cautiously optimistic that we would fund. Like, we were pretty confident that we would reach our funding goal by the end of the, I think we did three or 4 weeks in the end. So like, we kind of knew we'd done the legwork, and we had, the mailing list, we had the people really excited for it, and we're like, well, we only need 300 people, and we're pretty sure we'll be able to get that. What we didn't expect was the response we got, which was like funding in 8 hours and 600% of our goal. That was like way above anything we could have hoped for. But we definitely went in nervous, but kind of knowing we'd laid everything out, and now, like, as soon as we hit launch, like, yes, there's a lot of work to do during the Kickstarter, but all the work we'd done before had kind of set up that success. So we were expecting to fund probably halfway through, maybe in the last 48 hours. But yeah, we were fairly confident it would happen.
I mean, I feel like I was personally just overconfident. I mean, that's just, I mean, the more you do something, the more realistic you are, the more I kind of know. And sometimes, even if you don't expect to succeed, I'm starting to get to the point where I feel like, you know what, you can't be afraid of failure. I should start doing some Kickstarters that I feel like legitimately this might not succeed, but doing a bit of work, treating it as it's meant. But yeah, I was excited, then thinking, wait, why is no one backing this? And yeah, that was it, kind of disappointment and feeling slightly concerned. Alan, you had something else to add?
Yeah, In terms of the, I mean, I gave a very dry answer, which was, I think that's my project manager's hat on, because I've done a lot of project management. So I tend to be very organized about things. Hence the reference to spreadsheets, which I think are very important.
Oh my God.
You need to have spreadsheets. You need to have. But
Indeed.
I mean,
I have
I think,
many.
yeah, the emotional thing is very important. I mean, I think the day before I can just. It's a bit like this. Say you're sitting down to a big Sichuan chili stew meal with some friends, right? And you don't know quite what it's going to taste like. It's going to be strong. It's going to be really quite exciting. You don't know quite whether you're going to like it when you get in there, when you're eating it, and also you're trepidatious about, will all the people around the table also like it? So there's that excitement of something completely new because it's your first one. There's that tension and slight pain, almost like it's going to be really, really spicy and strong. And also there's that concern. You think most people will like it because that's what they're there for, but you're always slightly worried that maybe somebody won't like it, and that's going to be a disappointment. So I think that's the kind of emotional reaction I was having to it without my project manager. When I took my project manager's hat off, so it is you need that level of stress. You need that level of stress, otherwise you're not doing it right, I think.
Going to anything new, there's like such a mixture of emotions. And before we get into taking care of your mental health, just to flag up, Board Game Circus says, speaking of emotions, it sucks so much energy out of you, while at the same time pushing you with a lot of positivity. Sometimes, however, the one negative backer spoils everyone else's fun in the comments, and it can really slow you down. And yeah, so Phoebe, when you've got this potential one negative backer, I know that Jamie Stegmaier talks about just turning off the comments, and I think that's a big part of why Jamie went away from Kickstarter, because maybe they do have some degree of emotional fragility. Like, everyone has to be aware of what kind of breaks them. But Phoebe, do you have any ways to take care of yourself?
I mean, we were fortunate to have a very good community, even in our comments. Like, we didn't really have anyone being annoyed or mad or frustrated or anything, but you do see it a lot in tabletop with, why doesn't the insert fit sleeved cards, or why does this mini have X or Y, or like very angry over very small things. And I honestly don't know how those creators handle it. I mean, I've done customer service before, I've worked in retail before. You just have to kind of smile and be like, I'll pass that on to the manager, thanks for your concern. But when you're the creator behind it, even though it's not personal, it just stabs you. And I'm also a person who, when I did YouTube reviews and stuff, all it took was one negative comment or even just a thumb down. I'm like, why did you thumb my video down? What did I do to you? And it's not personal, they just clicked a button, but it does really kind of get to me as well. I don't know, I think the best thing to do is just, if it's bothering you, just close it, walk away, have a nap. You will need a nap if you're running a Kickstarter. Have a nap, have a snack, come back to it, and just try to get some distance before you process it and respond to it is kind of my best advice for that.
Really good advice. Sally?
Well, I don't know. Let's see how it goes. But I've been already confronted with the negative comments from, as I was in Gen Con, I had this panel about making games as a person of color. And there were negative comments and thumbs down, and people saying very mean things like, it doesn't matter if the person making the game is black or white or blue. The important is the gameplay works.
Oh my
And
God.
it's like really, but yeah, there are those people, and there are many of them, and like I have to decide which battle I want to fight, and the battle I want to fight is to talk to people that are eager to listen and to discuss and to argue and to debate. People that just want to dish their frustration out, I just ignore. It's the best.
I love that. Choosing who to focus talking to. Yeah. Alan, how do you keep your mental health positive?
Yeah, it's a goodie. It's a good one. It depends very much on your personality. I think you can tell if you're a designer. How do you react to a 1 on BGG on one of your games? Okay, that's the real key one. If you react to a 1 rating on BGG for one of your games badly and engage with the person, that's showing you're not thick-skinned enough. Yeah, you do need to be thick-skinned, and part of the engaging with part of the mental health thing is not engaging too much with the negatives. I think that's important. I think the classic one is, you've designed this, you know the product, you should have confidence in your product. Not everybody will like what you're doing. If somebody, bizarrely, of course, if somebody engages with your project and then disses it, why don't they just walk away? I mean, people can walk away, but if they don't like it, they don't have to battle. And so I would say, don't take it personally. I think that goes for all design things, really. Some people just won't like what you're doing. Some people will deliberately try and diss things which are good, which you think are good, and it's subjective. It's not an objective critique of what you're doing. That's the point. Part of my, because I've been a project manager for a long time, things go wrong in projects. People disagree. People make stupid comments, all the time, and you have to ride with it. I think another key thing about these kinds of things is be responsive. Where people are critical in a good way, be very responsive and quite quick. You have to be quick on Kickstarter. You can't let things ride for days. You have to be quick. And in a lot of cases, you can be something can go wrong. Like we've had the odd problem with shipping because it's COVID. We had problems with our initial plan for the shipping to the US was completely just blown to pieces because the US changed all their prices in July, and that was when our game was delivered. So it meant that our US postage costs literally more than doubled overnight from the plan. So, but if you tell people, if you actually update and tell people these things, people are very. That's
a really
helpful.
good shout. To
very
communicate,
helpful.
It's all about that communication, making sure that you share the pertinent details. And I love what all three of you have said about stepping away, having that nap, snack, whatever, choosing who you focus on. And
go for a walk every day. Go for a walk every day.
Absolutely. It's even more important that you do these things if you are... obviously some people suffer from mobility. They might not be able to do that. But, take care of yourself even more, because it is a big stress. And that's whether it's the euphoria of saying, oh, wow, I've got all these backers suddenly. And then for another 12 hours, you don't get anyone. It's, oh, my God, where's everyone? Now, I want to very quickly see if we can tackle a couple of these questions in the next couple of minutes. So firstly, I don't know how you're going to answer this, Tally. Did I ever consider cancelling a Kickstarter? Yes, in a bind. I was going to cancel it on Friday. It was destined. Actually, I think I hadn't read the thing about finishing on Thursday. I just remembered it was finishing late on Sunday PM. So I don't know if that information wasn't out there or if I hadn't read it. Anyway, so on Friday I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to cancel this. I phoned up my friends and said, you know what, I'm thinking of cancel it. Like Rowan from London on Board said, oh, come on, write it out, see what you can do. And then Maquette and Liz said to me, you know what, Bez, just message everyone that you know on Kickstarter, just message everyone and say, and so that's what I did. Like, spent like the whole of Saturday writing messages saying, hey, if this looks like something that you'd want, that it's reasonable for the cost, please back it. If it doesn't look like something that you actually want, then a £1 pledge, you know, it would be really amazing. And I managed to get 1/3 of the money in basically one day, in the last day, which is slightly unusual. But even the Kickstarter for the LDEC 2nd edition ended up funding, and that was with me coming to it with full knowledge and actually having done a fair bit of planning for it. It ended up funding in the final couple of hours, which was so intense. And same with In a Bind. So it is a massive rush. And yes, I thought about cancelling it. And if you're halfway through and you think, okay, there's something fundamental that I can change about the product, then do that. But I think fundamentally, cancelling it, if you need to give up, if you're like, yeah, I can't take this mental load anymore, then that's also okay. Be okay with that. But yeah, that's my stance. Have you ever considered this, Phoebe?
No, as I said, we were lucky enough that we funded in 8 hours. So, as I said, better than we were expecting, way quicker than we were expecting that to happen. I think if we hadn't funded, if the project was going terribly and we weren't on track to fund, let's say by the end of the 2nd or 3rd week, maybe we would have considered it. But I think we would have, at that point, we'd invested, you know, we'd booked the marketing and we'd invested a lot in that kind of 3 to 4 week run, that we would have probably just ridden it out and, you know, fingers crossed, hoped for a Hail Mary in the last 48 hours. I totally understand people who do, like, it doesn't look like they're reaching the funding goal, and so they do decide to cancel and return, either with, you know, stronger marketing and stronger community, or with, you know, changing the product if there's some kind of fundamental feedback that's like consistent and a way they can change and improve it to make it a better fit for, you know, the community on Kickstarter. What really annoys me is creators who reach their funding goal and then cancel because it didn't do well enough, because I think that's very disingenuous. But that's a whole other discussion on the culture of stretch goals and funding goals and real goals, that we don't have time for. But anyway.
Sally, do you want to skip this question?
I don't know, like I talked about it with
sorry,
Margarita and Johanna, and we said that we would move on even if it's looking bad, because since we are prepared for not being funded, so let's go and see how it goes, because I think the whole journey is actually good and important for our learnings. And yeah, like maybe just fail once and then try again.
Yeah, we never considered cancer. We got our goal in 48 hours, but even though we'd set, well, I suppose in terms of the actual cost of the project, a relatively low goal, we were quite. I think, well, Two Tomatoes certainly were very confident we were going to. I was less confident, which is my first one. But I think in terms of going back to the mental health, just briefly, I think it's absolutely vital that you talk to people. So having somebody on hand who you can talk to in whichever way is appropriate for you. You might want to shout at them. I don't know. Certainly having people to talk to is absolutely just, you need that, because that does help to alleviate stress.
I talk to my therapist almost every day now. Like just a quick chat. She calls, how are you doing? I'm doing fine. How are you feeling? I'm feeling okay. Like they are like just quick chats. but she's there in case like I freak out and I feel like, she's like there for me. And of course, my family, all my friends.
Exactly. I have my
And
wife.
of the community from Gogo. I'm very personal about the project, very, very personal. So I think everyone will notice if something is not right. And I'm very lucky I have many people to talk to. It's a privilege. I'm very, very blessed.
I think I would rather, I mean, looking at our goal, I would rather in future set a proper goal, which is the full cost. Just to see how that works, because I'm feeling like, you know, we ought to be able to do this risk management thing.
There's so much going on. I have to kind of stop this chat at this point. I'm very sorry. A quick bye to those who are leaving at this minute, and apologies to those who submitted questions. It feels so. This is the second live panel that I've done, because the first one being last week, and the only one I'd done before that was Wolf Gilhova, James Naylor, and Zach Connolly, I want to say, but that was pre-recorded, so it was very different because it was like. And so it occurs to me that I didn't leave time for audience questions at the end, which I do apologize for. That might be a thing that I do in future with these kinds of panels, have fewer questions of my own, make sure that I get into the main questions a little bit earlier when it's a panel. So sorry about that, people. And we have had some, really interesting chats about how, how being completely overfunded can be overwhelming, but of course that's a good problem to have. The opposite is no funding, and that causes more grief. And it's like just a lot of crazy things going on, whatever you're doing in a Kickstarter. But where's my recap banner? There we go. So we talked about so much. We talked so much about Spiel. I think that's the first mistake I made, kind of saying the brilliant thing was Spiel and then talking about that for like half an hour. And then we talked about, highlights about games that we're enjoying, and about music, and about rats and elephants. We talked about pre-marketing. We talked about the realism of expectations, about having partners, having reviews, having articles lined up, going out and getting naps and snacks, and like how you feel everything. You feel excitement, you feel tension, you can feel confidence. And I love the analogy of it's like a Sichuan curry, and maybe it'll be good, but maybe it won't. You never know. But probably it'll be good. Hopefully it'll be good. If you've done your, as long as you've looked into the restaurant, as long as you've looked up the reviews, by which the analogy would be kind of looking up some tips on how to do this thing, do some pre-marketing, it'll probably be okay, as long as you've actually made a good thing and you've told people about your good thing. Anyway, so share those details. We talked about therapy, and that led me to think about a support network with all your friends. It's so important. Have some people that you can phone up, whether that's your parents or closest friends, and be honest, especially with yourself, why are you doing this? But, what we can all agree on is, Alex says, this Kickstarter is too spicy. Sorry about that. It's because like with a panel, it feels to me like it needs a little bit more moderation than just a one-to-one group, if you know what I mean. But I don't know, like feedback on how I run the panel is very welcome. We can chat about that afterwards. But I want to say thank you.
Very good, Beth.
Two thumbs.
You're doing great.
Oh, not two tomatoes then. Not two tomatoes.
Definitely two thumbs.
So I want to say thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone in the comments for watching along. Even though we didn't get to flash up all the chat, there was so much lovely stuff. And thank you, everyone, for being so wonderful. Especially shouts out to Sate wielding the sword. You're not slow at all. You're lovely. And I appreciate you moderating. So thank you to moderator Sate. And If you want to find me, stuffbybez.com, stuffbybez.com, where you can buy my stuff, twitter.com/stuffbez, where I share the most stuff, instagram.com/stuffbez, where it's kind of highlights, twitch.tv/stuffbez, where I'm streaming every morning at 10 a.m. and Tuesdays. Oh, today's Tuesday at 8 p.m. Facebook.com/thingsbybez is a thing, and stuffbybez@gmail.com. Kate, let me know. Do you want to play, what did we say? Partner, perfect match, also known as Wavelength. Do you want to play that tonight? Let me know. And if you do, then maybe we can play that tonight. Oh, Alex was faster. Oh, there we go. So, but thank you very much. And it's over to you. What are you up to? You can share only if you want to. So anything you want to share, something you're looking forward to, hopes and ambitions, share anything, whether exciting, trivial, important, or just fun. And I will look up all the links for people to share them while we're doing that. So let's start off with Phoebe. What do you want to share?
What do I want to share? Oh, I should have thought about this. I don't know. Oh, I'm going to eat an apple pie tonight, probably. That's going to be nice.
Nice. That does sound nice.
Yeah, that does sound nice.
What am I doing? Oh, hopefully we'll get to catch up with friends soon, because I keep saying this every time, but lockdown is slowly lifting in Melbourne. So we're getting like 1 or 2 cases a day, which is very good. So
you're doing very well in Australia. Yeah,
it was scary for a while. It's getting better. So in like 3 weeks, theoretically, we can go and see friends in person, which is going to be nice.
And Tally and Andrew January is already looking forward to backing Doggo Dash.
Thank you. I don't know, like I'm going to launch my project. My hands are so cold. I'm so nervous. Like each hour that comes closer to it, I'm like more nervous. I'm going to meet the girls, Johanna and Margarita, and we are going to do this together. And we are going to have a champagne and stay like holding hands for some hours, I think. Well, yeah, we are pretty much isolated now with Corona, so we are just going to meet as 3 to do this together. I think we need the support from each other. It makes us stronger.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
It's a lovely thing. We should chat about support networks at some point.
Yes. Very good luck, Tally, on that. I hope it goes really, really well. I shall back the project.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And so, yeah, everyone, those links are clickable onto YouTube, or if you're watching on Twitch, it's on the comments. Facebook, it should also be in the things. We're up to 105 followers now. That's
awesome.
Amazing.
I'm doing Spiel Digital. Anybody who wants to come to our stand, please come to our stand, or come to our Twitch stream. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know which one is best. I don't know whether you should come to our stand or just come to our streaming, because I don't know how it's going to work. Just come along in some way or other.
Yeah, Doggo Dash is also Spiel, and I hope I meet Alan Paull there as well, so I can also play his games or just watch the streaming.
We're on twitch.tv/surprisestaregames. Oh, sorry, I didn't tell you that, did I? Twitch.tv/surprisestaregames.
Yep, I've got it.
Yep, brilliant. Thank you.
I just hadn't added to it. I put in T and then.
There we go. That's it.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So that's that. And we've got. I'm going to personally hope. My hope and ambition is that Sate is well enough to play Wavelength and be on camera. So yeah, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for you, and sending lots of healing thoughts. And
our first stream on Thursday is with somebody called Bez. I don't know who she is, but I'm sure we'll find out.
And so yeah, but like if everyone could just send a love heart of some sort in the Twitch chat right now to kind of send a lots of healing thoughts. So thank you very much. And Alex says Bez sounds dodgy. But that is thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to finish up in the next minute. Next streams, look at stuffabeds.com/streams. Tomorrow, oh, I should know this. Oh yeah, it's Alan Alton talking about Alphabetical, which are programming for Board Game Arena. And then Thursday, Plastic Cards, blah, blah, blah. Check out. Oh, tonight, 8 p.m. Hopefully, and if one of you wants to join, well, it's a bit early for you, Phoebe. But share, spread the word. There is only one thing left to do. And that one thing left to do is to say bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song.
Bye, bye.
Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show.
Goodbye.
Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. Yes, go on back Doggo Dash tonight. And now it's time to
Bye.
to